Hello and welcome back, and it's time for another Q&A. We're here with Tam at the UK office here of QNAP, and we're going to answer your questions. These are your questions from YouTube, from the blog, from social, from all those different platforms, and the emails and everything you guys send through, and we're going to go through them all today. There's quite a lot, so get comfortable, make sure you've got a cup of tea on the go. Let's start going through today's questions. Unofficial memory upgrades and memory limitations. So the 53D, for example, has an 8 gig limit, but there's a lot of users out there, and a few of them using my guide, self-plug, have exceeded that with like 16 gig modules to put it up to a total 32 gig. Also, the QNAP's position on unofficial memory. I know a lot of NAS brands aren't overly keen on people using lots of different NAS memory. And I know QNAP sells your own memory modules as well. What's QNAP's position on memory installations exceeding the official limits and using non-QNAP memory?
Okay, so I mean the main reason we obviously don't support third-party memories because we don't test it. The memory that we do supply with the NAS and the additional accessories that we supply have been tested to make sure the operating system is stable, applications don't crash, that sort of thing. And one thing I will say though, although we don't support third-party memory, we don't penalise customers for using third-party memory. So if they want to contact our support team and perhaps there's an issue with the power supply or something else in the NAS which is unrelated to memory, then we will support them. However, obviously, if there is a problem with the software or the operating system, rebooting or whatever it might be, we would just ask the customer to install the first-party memory, the QNAP module, so we can
rectify the problem.
Do further tests. In terms of the higher RAM configurations that you can do with third-party memory, I mean, it's a similar stance. I mean, if it works, great, but it's again because it's using unsupported memory, then we can't support it, and if it does cause issues, then we may have to look at swapping the memory out to test. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's great that that's available to customers. Great for doing virtual machines and things like that. But yeah, it is unsupported.
Excellent, cool. Next question. A lot of users, myself included, will compare QNAP with, of course, Synology. It's one of the most comparable, it's a lot of my videos are along that theme, software, hardware, a lot. And a lot of the solutions that are out there, you've both got ranges of home stuff, SMB, top-end stuff, enterprise. What makes QNAP, you feel, the better choice over your rival?
Okay. So, I mean, there's four main reasons, I'd say. So, I mean, the first one is the flexibility of our products. The product can sort of build around the user. I mean, a lot of the feedback we get, especially with the lower end products like the 53D, is people are quite surprised at how much you can actually do with that product, and they're not having to do any upgrades or anything. They can use virtualization station, for example, QVR Pro, all those sort of cool applications that a lot of people are using, which helps, I think, sell our product. The second thing I'd say is expansion. So obviously, I know you guys have done a lot on YouTube about the new series. We've got the TL and the TR series that have just been announced. Now, those models are actually compatible depending on which NAS you've got, but right through from our single bay NAS products like the 131K and obviously right up to the 24 bay rack mounts. And the beauty of those expansion enclosures as well is they're not just for QNAP NAS products. You can use those expansions on PCs, and we've just found out recently that you can use them on gaming consoles as well. So, if you've got an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4, we know they don't often come with a massive hard drive, but unfortunately games are now 78 gigs. You can expand the Xbox and PlayStation to have an additional external storage. So, I mean, when we did initially release the expansion enclosures, they were only for enterprise racks. But over time, we've released a bunch of new products now that, like I said, are available across the board. I think the third thing would be compatibility. So one of the things that we really sort of strive to do is work with lots of different manufacturers out there. Obviously, the usual ones like Seagate and Western Digital, but other hard drive brands as well, and IP cameras, and obviously there's hundreds of different brands of those, and we do try to make sure we have a full portfolio of products, because what we don't want to do is only have a very select few of products, which means customers are then limited, and everyone has their preference when adding devices to their NAS, whether it is an IP camera or whatever it might be. So it means that we can actually offer a great amount of choice for customers, so they can actually add on the devices that they want and not forced into buying a particular camera because that's the only one listed.
With the expansions, that was quite an interesting point because, I mean, again, I covered a lot of them recently here on the channel, and self-plug again. But it's just the range of them.
Yeah.
And there's no other brand out there that supports that many kinds of expansion on that scale, on the number of, JBOD ones that have got that great SAS expanded XFF. And there's been a lot of good feedback on those from what I've seen on my side. So I hope that continues with those expansions, and the fact that they will support the smaller devices, it makes my job a lot easier when people are asking me about, my storage is nearly filled up, what do I do? And I don't want to say to them, sorry, it's game over, buy a new NAS. It's great that having that element of flexibility too. That I can totally see that. So.
And finally, innovation. So as everyone knows, I mean, I've been working at the company for 7 years. When I first started at the business, there was maybe 70, 80 products, and now our portfolio is over sort of 300 or 400 products. But we've not just continued focusing on NAS, it's all the various accessories that connect to the NAS, whether that's network switches that we've released, the 10 gig to Thunderbolt adapters, and obviously we have changed some of the NAS products, and now we have the Thunderbolt products, which are great for content creators and what have you. And
don't worry, they're Thunderbolt questions.
But yeah, I mean, there's plenty to choose from, and I think the whole cross-platform feature, like with the QM2 cards, you can add them into a Windows or Mac PC for a high speed volume. So yeah, I think innovation is a big thing for us, and being able to branch out into different areas of of the business.
Cool. On the subject of innovation, last year in the later stages of 2018, you guys were talking about a tool, QLink Drive Analyzer, or QNAP X QLink, and that was that way of predicting drive failure and preempting it so you could swap drives out. But things have gone a bit quiet on that. Is that still being investigated, or is it going to launch?
It is. I mean, so the plan is in Q4 that we're going to be announcing a beta program. So I would expect maybe early 2021, maybe Q1 to Q2 to see a release.
A full
of that.
rollout.
Yeah.
Okay. No, because I know a lot of people ask me about that, because it's hot spare and stuff like that. It's good, but when the disaster does happen, you're out of commission with RAID. Obviously, if you use the EXT4 system, but no, it's great to hear. Next, we've not heard a lot about Thunderbolt 3 this year from you guys. I believe that maybe at the very start of the year we saw an adapter, even though it might have been the tail end of 2019, but Thunderbolt 3 is something you guys kind of just owned in that NAS area, be it in terms of accessories or wholesale systems. Is that still something QNAP are investigating?
It is. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had amazing success with the Thunderbolt series, and it's something that they are continuing to develop. There is a new product due for release later on this year. It's going to be following on from the 1282 T3. But with a few extra features that we've not seen in the Thunderbolt series before.
Nice.
So yeah, you should see that this year.
Cool, excellent. It's good to know you guys, because it's been really quiet. A lot of people are kind of, where's the products and where are they? And no, that's fantastic. This next question circles back to something you actually touched on earlier on to do with IP cameras. You guys at the moment have got switches, you guys have got adapters. I remember like 2 years ago, someone came up to me at a trade show and said, "Oh, you talked about that QNAP switch, still hasn't been released yet. Is it vaporware?" And here we are 2 years later, and you're on, I think, the second or third generation of those switches now. But one device you guys have never really brought to the table, which seems really odd to me, is IP cameras.
Yeah, I think.
Is there any plans?
No, there's no plans on releasing any IP cameras. I think with that market, it is quite a saturated market already, with a lot of different manufacturers, and then thousands of models within that. So I think, I mean, yes, obviously we have brought out other peripheral devices like the switches. But cameras, I think, will just remain. We'll just leave that to the camera manufacturers to look at.
Is there any brand you could recommend, top of your head, the one that you recommend? That's not on the list, guys. I just want to know.
I mean, for commercial use, we'd probably generally recommend like Axis or Vivotech, and then your more consumer use, maybe like Foscam, companies like that. But yeah, we support a number of different brands, so there's plenty of choice.
So this next question actually came from a Synology forum member that was messaging me about this.
Okay.
Synology have moved into that SSD side of things at the moment. And they've got their range of like SATA, high endurance drives, good, consistent IOPS performance throughout. But they've moved into producing their own SSDs, and a lot of they're using it for flash system and caching and stuff like that. Is QNAP ever going to go into that area? And if not, why not?
No, I mean the why is probably similar to IP cameras. There's a lot of known brands out there, and I think when it comes to drives, I mean, we were quite surprised by Synology's move at doing that, especially because QNAP and Synology have worked very closely with the hard drive and SSD vendors over the years, and even more so in the last couple of years. But no, I think we will continue working with the drive vendors and making sure that their products are on our compatibility list. But no, there's no plans to release drives.
Next question. Let's face it, we're in kind of an unusual situation in the world at the moment with COVID. This has been the last 6 months in the larger degrees of the world. How has COVID impacted QNAP's business?
Okay, so I mean, certainly the first half of this year had a massive impact on our overall business, unfortunately. But I think we're not the only ones who are probably saying that. I mean, in terms of the actual business itself, we've not had to furlough any staff or anything like that. All of our tech support staff can work from home. But I mean, there has been some positives come out of it. I mean, we've recently launched a YouTube channel now, so we've started engaging a lot more with customers in the UK and talking about our products and configuring certain features and things. And we've had a lot of success from that. So, and we will continue that on throughout the year. So, despite obviously all the issues that COVID's brought us, there has been some positives that have come out.
Excellent. And now it's quite a weird question I received through private emails, and I think a lot of it, maybe you've been listing jobs on like Reed or LinkedIn or something, but I've had some people asking me about QNAP's inclusion and diversity. Just generally, it can be the UK or QNAP as a whole.
Yeah.
What's QNAP's position on that? Do you have any kind of guidelines in place around that?
We don't have any particular guidelines. I mean, our recruitment process is based upon the skill set of the people that they're hiring. But I do like to say, I mean, QNAP is a huge company. We have offices all over the world, and we're not really siloed. Like I speak quite regularly with other team members across the world, and it sounds a bit cheesy, but we are treated as like a big family and a large global team, and it works really well. We help each other out. So yeah, I think we are a pretty diverse company. So
the next question actually concerns your new ZFS platform, QUTS. I've got a couple of questions on that actually, but the first one, the newest solutions, that 4/8 bay one, the H series, the 686 and the 886, they arrive with QUTS inside. I believe they've got a license pre-included. What if someone doesn't want to use it? I know it seems like a bit of a waste, but it's quite a resource-hungry file system. Is there an option to use the standard ext4 QTS? Yeah,
so when you boot the NAS up initially and go through the setup wizard, it does ask you whether you want to install QTS or Hero on the NAS. So they get the choice at setup. Obviously, if they went with Hero and they decided they wanted to put QTS on, they would need to get the data off the NAS. You can't do a downgrade.
Because I was going to, mainly a lot of people are asking, because if they've got pre-existing QNAPs they've had for a number of years, and they want to migrate it over, they'd have to do a fresh install. Okay, cool. The next one's more of a technical question. It's to do with graphics card support. I mean, I've mentioned it on numerous videos that QNAP NASs, particularly a lot of the high-end ones, do support graphics cards. A number of the ones from NVIDIA and some of the GeForce series. But the compatibility list is quite small. It's like 9 to maybe 12 different cards in a growing market of graphics cards where there's just loads. Is that just an out-of-date compatibility list, or is that a technical restriction?
It's more of a physical restriction, to be honest. So, the first problem being is generally the GPUs require additional power. Which is, we did release a number of different models, the 1685 and the Thunderbolt.
The 82 series.
The 82,
550 watt.
It had the larger power supply, and that's what that was for. But the other issue is physically fitting the card into the NAS, because of obviously internal components and whatever. A lot of the cards are just too big to actually put in our NAS boxes. So that is why it's such a limited list online, unfortunately.
But it is something that's looked into.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, we do still test cards, but I just think it's difficult to get a good enough card in there that's actually going to be able to fit.
We did I did a video that's coming live quite soon. Again, third plug, where we tested a graphics card inside an 877, actually, and we couldn't even put the lid on. Could not put the lid down on a rack mount with this card. And it was seen in virtualization, it was seen for the system resources, but as you say, it was a physical problem because a lot of graphics cards, I'm sure a number of you know, they have an HDMI port, a DVI port and stuff like that, so you can't even get a half-depth card. I'll be honest, I'm kind of annoyed I didn't already think of that. So next question. I have to ask this because I swear I've asked this at every single when I compose all of these questions. Is there going to be a Thunderbolt 3 PCI upgrade card because people want one?
Yes. Yes, there is one coming out later on this year. We've actually had not an internal announcement, but we've been told that there is one due this year, expected around Q4. Now, what I have been told is it's only going to be available on select products. But yeah,
presumably a CPU restriction. I mean, that is very, very good. I mean,
yeah.
We're seeing increasing numbers of Xeon-powered systems out there, and at the moment you can only really get a Thunderbolt NAS and an Intel Celeron or an Intel Core, like an i3, i5, i7. So I think if that card can be supported by Xeon systems, that would be phenomenal. So that's incredible news. I assume it would be a dual-port card as well.
I believe so, yeah, 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, yeah.
Fantastic news. I'll be honest, we can end the Q&A there, but we won't. We might stick an advert there, who knows? And we're back. Next question. Actually, that relates quite neatly to what I just briefly said. QNAP, a lot of your older generation devices in the last 2 or 3 years were utilising Pentiums, i3s, i5s, i7s, and we've kind of seen that moved away from. The last series to feature those was the 72 series, which featured the i3 and the i5, and now we're looking at a world with i9s in it, a newer generation, and 8th and 9th and 10th gen Intel Core. So is that still going to be something you guys are pursuing? Because QNAP are the only ones left that use Intel Core in their library. You have your Ryzen, you've got Radeon series GPU and GeForce ones. So are you going to continue in that?
We will still continue working, supplying products with the Intel Core CPUs. I think what's happened, especially over the last couple of years, we've branched out and using AMD processors in more products. So I think it's just it's diluted the range, and it's just meant that there seems to be less core Intel products. But we still have the Thunderbolt series, the 72N series, and the 72XU rack mounts that still feature those core Intel processors.
The latest Ryzen 3 that you had on one of your rack mounts, I think it was one of the Hero ones.
Yes.
And again, it's nice to see those Ryzens, up and about. And Xeons are always going to be popular in data storage because of their utility and AI and stuff like that. But it's really nice to be able to leverage your spending. If you come into this and go, I've got $2,000, I've got $5,000 to spend, it's nice to know that you can go, I'm going to spend most of that money on this particular graphically enabled chip. Fantastic. Next up, QTS Hero once again. If you're already an existing QNAP NAS user and you've got the hardware architecture in place, you've got one of these Xeon Ryzen powered devices that was, they purchased it prior to the advent of QTS Hero arriving. Is it possible for them to upgrade? Because people are still kind of wondering about how and when that's going to become available, if at all.
Yeah, I mean, so we are still going to be releasing the QTS Hero license. Unfortunately, it has been delayed. So the last I heard, it was looking at Q1 next year. In terms of what products it's going to be available on, because the license hasn't been released yet and isn't quite ready, we don't know yet which model that's going to be supported on. But hopefully we'll know nearer the time before the license is released.
And the current existing ranges of Hero products, they've got, you've got the A86 that we mentioned earlier on. So it's out there and it's used. We've got several software videos, fourth plug. We've got several videos overviewing that product and the ZFS file platform on it. But no, that's fantastic. So next, surveillance. QVR Pro has featured quite heavily on my platform for quite a while. It's a very, very good enterprise level product in terms of surveillance. And there are more features being added to it all the time with with QVR Door and QVR Face and stuff like that, all of them being developed into that platform. But one feature you still don't have is the ability to look at my cameras at the in the web browser. You have to use a client tool, and that's a common requested feature from my side. Is that something QNAP are going to resolve? Or?
We actually already do it.
Okay.
So if you've configured your NAS so that you can access it remotely, either through My QNAP Cloud or however you want to configure that, if you do use QVR Pro, if you go into the configuration screen and go to the cameras, you'll see a share button, like what you see on other platforms. And if you click that share, it will create a link. You can password protect it, and basically you can just put that link into the browser and you'll have access to the camera.
Excellent, great. Last question to do with the PCIe slot on the 53D series. Now, this has been an area of contention for some. The 53D series in 2, 4, and 6 bay has that PCIe slot, which is fantastic. The fact that you can upgrade it and add 10 GPU and caching, let's not mince words, it's a great upgradable product. But the 2 bay is PCIe Gen 2 x 4, and the 4 and the 6 bay are PCIe 2 x 2. So why has the 2-bay got a greater PCIe connectivity,
Yeah.
and why is the other ones not, ultimately?
Well, the reason for the 2-bay is just down to the amount of PCI lanes, and because that model has less drive bays, it means there's more bandwidth available, which is why it's the faster slot. Obviously, on the 4 and 6-bay, they've got more drive bays. I mean, the reason for it, it's not a great answer, unfortunately, but it's down to the chipset of the Intel motherboards that we do use. But what I do think it does do is allows customers to be able to use some of those more advanced features and start dipping their toe into using 10 gig and caching and tiering. If they're wanting a full-blown 10 gig solution, then we have plenty of other options available that offer that.
It's that question of leveraging once again about where your budget's going to go, I guess.
Yeah, and I think a lot of customers buying like the 53D series, chances are they're probably not going to be planning on putting anything like that in at the beginning, but at least gives them the option to use that sort of feature further down the line.
Excellent. Okay, well, that's your questions, guys. That's the lot. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully there is a written version in the description below. There will be another Q&A towards the end of the year. So again, start firing your questions over and we can get on that. But otherwise, thank you so much, Tam, for today.
Thanks, Rob.
Really, really helpful. We would shake hands, but we can't these days. You know that. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to click like if you enjoyed this video. Click subscribe to learn more. And I will see you next time.